welcome everyone to East County Magazine's forum for Lemon Grove City Council candidates. Lemon Grove is a delightful little city, but it's facing some big challenges, as many cities are these days. I want to thank all 4 candidates for participating tonight. Councilman David Arambula, former Councilman George Gastil looking to reclaim a seat, Planning Commissioner Liana Lebaron, and Teresa Rosiak, who is the former president of the Lemon Grove Chamber of Commerce. We also thank the Facebook Journalism Project for funding our series of virtual candidate forums during the COVID-19 era. And we especially thank the many residents of Lemon Grove who sent in so many great questions, and we're going to try to fit in as many as we can tonight. I'm Miriam Raftery, the editor of East County Magazine. I'm the moderator of tonight's forum, along with our co-host, John Sepulveda, who is also our timekeeper. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 1 minute for closing statements. The first round of questions will be responses of up to 2 minutes. Feel free to be shorter if you want to. And then a lightning round of some easier questions with answers of up to 1 minute. So without further ado, let's move on to opening statements. I think we'll just keep it easy. We'll go in order and we'll rotate so everybody gets a chance to go first and everybody gets a chance to go last. So Teresa, we'll start with you. If you could share your qualifications, accomplishments, and goals if elected.
Thank you. I'm a native of Lemon Grove, and I've been employed 26 years for a major healthcare corporation. In 1994, I purchased a townhouse on Central Avenue and started to attend the city council meetings.
It's freezing up. John?
Since that time in Lemon Grove. Since a child, I've been doing charity work, feeding the homeless and helping struggling families weekly in Lemon Grove. I volunteered for the Old Time Days as a volunteer 3 years in a row, and I was also the event day coordinator for Old Time Days for 6 years. I've been involved in Paint Lemon Grove, 6 different events. I'm a past president of the Lemon Grove Chamber of Commerce. I'm currently the co-founder of the Lemon Grove Improvement Council and the co-founder of the Lemon Grove Business Improvement Council. I'm involved with the Caltrans Adopt a Highway program. I'm passionate about healthcare, violence, rape, human trafficking, as our family has, faced some of these issues. The city of Lemon Grove needs to evolve, and we need visionaries and new leaders who think out of the box and who are not afraid to make the hard decisions. During these unprecedented times of COVID, the city should be working harder than ever, and we can do better, and we must do better for our residents. I pledge no new taxes. I will not accept a salary or benefits, as our sidewalks need to be repaired and more are needed. I am ready to roll up my sleeves and serve you, and I hope that you will join me in this exciting journey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councilman Arambula, let's hear your opening statement.
Good evening, Miriam, John, and fellow candidates and audience members. My name is David Arambula, and I'm running for re-election to the Lemon Grove City Council. So thank you for taking the time this evening to learn more about each of the candidates, and I'm honored to share the space tonight with such high caliber people. As for me, I'm completing my first term this year as a council member. Our campaign is endorsed by Dr. Shirley Weber, our assembly member for the 79th, Labor and Working Families, the Dem Party, Lemon Grove firefighters, they're local, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, among other key endorsements. More about me, though. I served honorably in the U.S. Marine Corps. Then I went to undergrad, grad school, and law school. After law school, I helped develop and run the Employee Rights Center as part of the San Diego Imperial County's Labor Council. From there, I worked at different companies in different capacities, but primarily performing HR and litigation prevention functions. So like most of the candidates for local office, we all want to genuinely give back to our community in one form or another. For some, it starts with volunteering at community events, and for others, it's running for local office. Everyone's efforts are important and much appreciated and applauded by the respective community they serve. As many of us have learned, though, it's often oftentimes difficult to always make everyone happy. So leadership, as we all know, is not a popularity contest, but rather a responsibility to get the job done. You were elected. These leadership dynamics, you can simplify them and just keep them at that and saying you're getting the job done or you're not getting the job done. But quite frankly, the dynamics are further complicated in local government when you're only one of 5 votes, as we are on the city council. You have to learn how to lead as part of a team. Speaking poorly about fellow community members who are also giving back to the community or creating unnecessary or unwarranted issues simply to get a title is not becoming of any of us. So that said, I applaud the courage displayed by my fellow candidates for running for office in Lemon Grove, including mayor and city council positions. So let me close this opening statement by stating that any individual that is elected in November will have to work closely with fellow council members in order to address the pressing issues facing the cities. Nothing sustainable can be done individually. It must be done as part of a relatively cohesive team. Let's see. I hope to provide you additional reasons for earning your vote this evening to be reelected to Lemon Grove City Council. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Liana, are you there? We're not seeing your video. Liana? Hi. Okay. Liana Lebaron, let's hear your opening statement, please.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my home. My name is Liana Lebaron, and I'm running for Lemon Grove City Council. As some of you may know, I'm a born and raised Lemon Grover. I'm a product of local schools, and I'm a San Diego State alumna. I've always been that person who's been an advocate for others. I've always been that person to ask the tough questions and then to report back to people. And what that has translated to in my adult life is years of work in nonprofit, years of service in nonprofit organizations, to the point to where I'm now able to give back to the community where I was born and raised. So to that end, I'm involved in all things Lemon Grove. I currently serve on the board of a couple local nonprofits, to include the Lemon Grove Lions Club, the Lemon Grove Community Garden. Greg Shibley and I actually recently created a local podcast, actually Lemon Grove's first local podcast, called Shine on Lemon Grove, in which we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly that's going on around town. Essentially, our mission is to encourage an informed and engaged community and to promote business, talk about all things Lemon Grove, of course, and talk about ways in which we can improve our city. Also, something that I'm very, very proud about is the fact that I currently serve on the Lemon Grove Planning Commission. It's through that work that I've actually gotten to know, I've gained and I've earned a lot of experience in working with the city. And I see many opportunities in the ways in which the city can have better relations with the community at large, and in turn, improve our city. I think I'll leave it at that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Liana. And last but not least, George Gastil, let's hear your opening statement.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. And I especially appreciate the people who are taking the time to learn about the candidates. In Lemon Grove, we have immense challenges, as everybody knows. And I have to say that somebody with experience could probably be good to handle these. I was on the city council for 8 years, from 2008 to 2016, and I had the opportunity to work with Mary Sessom, our former mayor, who was supporting me. I had the chance to work with several other talented people who got the city through some very hard times during that time period. I also served on the Lemon Grove School Board even further back for 10 years, from 1998 to 2008. Lemon Grove is really special to me, just like it's special to all the people that run for this job. I've been active in Lions, and I was one of the co-founders of the community garden. And my wife and I have raised 3 sons in Lemon Grove. Looking ahead, we need leadership and we need vision. And people often say that the problems are immense, but I can tell you that our problems are solvable if we have people who are working together and if we have a vision that makes sense to the average person in Lemon Grove. The budget crisis, for example, is something that we have the ability to solve. It's fundamentally a communication problem that involves the city being able to eventually to communicate better with its residents and better at forming a vision and getting buy-in for what we need to do as a city. We also need to make our city more walkable. We need to make our city safer. We need to be working with our firefighters and our police officers to accomplish more with less money. There's so much to do, and we need experienced people working on it.
Very good. Thanks to all of you. And it sounds like Lemon Grove residents are fortunate to have 4 experienced and qualified people running with various backgrounds. As George mentioned, Lemon Grove is facing a structural budget deficit. What steps do each of you support to help resolve the deficit and the budget problem? And please specifically include your stance on whether you support or oppose a sales tax increase, and also whether or not you believe disincorporating as a city and going back to county control, as some have suggested, is an option that you would consider or not. I'm sorry, Councilman Arambula, let's start with you. It's your turn.
Great, thank you. And I'll try to address all the questions you just raised in a coherent manner. So as far as what we're doing as a city, we've had countless meetings, workshops, agenda item discussions regarding our financial situation for obvious reasons. So I'm going to go backwards. I'll address the unincorporation or disincorporation issue or question first. Am I supportive of disincorporation? Absolutely not. Do we have a viable pathway to get us to where we need to get to? We're getting there. I'm very confident that we'll be there. But like anything that's worthwhile, that's going to be sustainable, it's going to take some time, and it has taken some time because it's not an easy problem to fix. I'll be the first to admit that, and I know the rest of my fellow council members will say exactly the same thing. Not one candidate here can give me a silver bullet. Not one candidate here can tell the community that this is the way that they are individually going to solve it. This is going to be solved as a group. So getting rid of all the shenanigans and all the static and noise that's out there, focusing in on truly caring about our city is going to be our first step. Second thing is to really put our minds around what we've been working on. So again, going back to this, disincorporation should be the last option, and it really should be the last ditch effort that we try. As far as our efforts, our initiatives, the cannabis tax that's going up as Measure J this November, it's anticipated to raise $300,000 to $1 million. There's of course one-time money from property sales, settlements, and that we're using our 115 trust money, which is generating 9% revenues, versus our CalPERS monies, which are only raising about 4%, or at least last year was 4%. So we have other things in the mix, a digital sign, which we anticipate getting no less than $350,000 per year, some estimates up to over $1 million. Now, there's plenty of more of these discussions, and the folks that are here already heard most of this, but it's good for the public to hear it, that we have plenty of ideas. Now we just need to put the work in and get it done.
Okay. Liana, what are your thoughts on the budget, disincorporation, and the sales tax? Can you unmute, please? There we go.
Hi, Miriam. I'm sorry. There's multiple parts to that question, and I want to make sure that I don't miss any. Could you repeat it again, please?
Absolutely. Lemon Grove is facing a structural budget deficit. What steps do you support to resolve that? And can you include your stance on the sales tax increase and disincorporation, as some have proposed? Sorry for the complex questions, but we're trying to fit in as many as we can.
What steps do you support to resolve the...
Go ahead.
Okay. What steps do you support to resolve the budget issues? Do you support a sales tax increase? And do you think the city should disincorporate, correct?
Yes, or would you consider that as a last course, option? Okay.
Okay. I'm going to start on disincorporation. So at this point, disincorporation is a huge unknown. Just hearing that word makes people very fearful. And as leaders, we need to know that we can't operate, or we can't make decisions from a point of fear. We need to be coming from a point of facts and what is best for our community. Like I already said, I'm a born and raised Lemon Grover, so the fact that this city at one point struggled to become a city and incorporate is huge for me. I find that that's wound up in my identity as a Grover. However, what I do know is that at the end of the day, we all just want our streets to be paved properly. We want our potholes to be filled. We want to have enough we want to have enough money to support the level of services that we think we deserve. And if disincorporation is one way that we're going to do that, that's something that, as a representative of the people of Lemon Grove, that's something that I would explore and have on the table. And that's something that I would go for if that is what the people of Lemon Grove wanted. Now, well, that can go either way, right? So if that's not what the city wants to do, then here I am as a representative, ready to rally for what citizens want. But like I said, ultimately, at the end of the day, we all just want those basic level of services that the city should be providing us. So that's to disincorporation. Do you support a sales tax increase? So this past this past March for the primaries, Measure S was on the ballot, correct?
And Ms. Lebaron, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we are well past time. So maybe Miriam, if it's okay, we'll let her just very simply, yes or no, do you support a sales tax increase? And then we can go on to the next candidate.
Okay, so again, as a representative and as a person who's very connected to the community, I support whatever the community wants. If the community wants a sales tax increase, then that's what they're going to get. And if they don't, they're not going to. According to the elections in March, the citizens of Lemon Grove said that no, they did not want a sales tax increase. Of course, that shows in that no vote, there was a lot of no voters because they don't trust our current leadership, because there wasn't a well thought out written plan, and because they didn't really think that they were going to get services that they deserve.
Thank you, Ms. LeBaron.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Right, very good. We'll go to
You're
George,
welcome.
but I do want to remind everybody to check the chat over there. And John, if I could ask you, when you put 15 seconds, if you could put the person's name so they know whether it's referring to the person that just spoke or whether it's their 15 seconds
Absolutely.
that are up.
Sure.
Okay, George, your thoughts on the budget, the sales tax, and disincorporation.
Right. Well, I'll take disincorporation first. I think it's extremely unlikely. No city has stopped being a city since the 1970s. And from what I read, that particular city was much smaller and much more pathetic than us. So I think it's really unlikely. I do think that we should be open to other various ideas, maybe merging with another city, maybe becoming part of a bigger entity in some other way. We should be open to other ideas that support the interests of the people of Lemon Grove, because really it's about serving the residents. As far as the sales tax, I was part of the effort that put a sales tax measure on the ballot in March. I'm very proud of that. It's one of the most remarkable grassroots efforts the city has seen. And I believe very strongly that when people fully understand what's involved in the city and what the choices are, that people will in fact support more revenue for the city. There might be some particular changes that we could make in a future proposal. There might be some ways to make a proposal better, but in general, I think we do need more revenue for the city. The structural deficit is real, and it really is primarily a matter of bringing the right proposal to the people and also rebuilding some of that trust that's been mentioned. The people in Lemon Grove, they need to understand that their city works for them, and the budget is a public document. 3/4 of the city's budget goes toward vital services, saving our lives. And as Lemon Grove residents, we need to be looking out for our city. I think most people would agree with that.
Thank you very much. And Teresa, your thoughts on these issues?
Well, with regards to disincorporation, nobody wants disincorporation for Lemon Grove, plain and simple. But I feel that we should get the information so that at a different time that we can make an educated decision. With regards to the sales tax, I will not vote for any type of sales tax in Lemon Grove whatsoever. And it was proven the citizens of Lemon Grove did not want the sales tax. They didn't want for us to give the city 2.9 million so that it can be mishandled. With regards to the budget deficit, we have to get it under control. Everything has to be looked over with a fine-tooth comb and gone through thoroughly, because unfortunately, I don't think that that is the case at this time. We need to look for collaborations. We have many people in Lemon Grove that are retired grant writers. We need to utilize them to bring more grants, because there are grants out there. We are just not applying for them. And one of them was a cannabis grant that was over $1 million that the city did not apply for. And that could have helped us tremendously. Also, we need to utilize volunteers. Volunteers do wonderful. Teamwork of volunteers makes the dream work. And volunteers can pick up the slack that City Hall cannot provide. Because again, it's all about the residents' needs, and our residents' needs are not being met at this time. Thank you.
Okay, on to our next question, and thank you, Teresa. Businesses in Lemon Grove, especially downtown businesses, have been hurt by the coronavirus pandemic, closure of a freeway off-ramp at Lemon Grove Avenue, and also blight, boarded up businesses and so forth. What steps would each of you take to help make downtown more attractive and revitalize the community, as we've seen La Mesa and El Cajon do, and improve the business climate in Lemon Grove? Let's see, I believe it is, lost track here. Let's see, it would be Liana, it's your turn to go first on this one. Liana? Could I ask that you unmute and be ready when it's your turn so that we don't have lost time?
Yes. Could I just have you repeat the question again, because there's like 3 parts to each question, so it's kind of difficult to address each one.
Yeah, businesses, especially downtown, have been hurting in Lemon Grove, first by the coronavirus pandemic, closure of a freeway off-ramp, and blight. What steps would you take to make downtown more attractive and revitalize the community, improving the business climate for Lemon Grove, basically?
So what steps will I take to what, I'm sorry?
To make it more business friendly.
To clean up our downtown?
Clean up downtown, there you go, you can address that.
Okay.
I would say clean up downtown. If anyone has
And
ideas.
how many minutes do I have to answer this?
Business, 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay. So as to what steps I'll take to make our downtown more business friendly, I'm going to start by saying what steps I'm already taking to do that. So being that I love this city, this is my home, right? And being that I know that our downtown area is extremely dirty, I took it upon myself a couple years ago to start going on, to start picking up trash as I go on my evening walks, right? And I took it a step further, and when I joined the local Lemon Grove Lions Club, which is a local community service group, when I joined the Lions Club, I took it a step further by bringing that to leadership and asking whether they would give support to me organizing monthly community cleanups. And since that happened about 1.5 years ago, we've been having those on a monthly basis. Not only do we have monthly community cleanups, which I lead, we also have graffiti removal events. And they all turn out to be extremely successful. And something that I want to say is that another candidate mentioned that we need to take advantage of partnerships with the community, and that we need to take advantage of volunteerism, especially at this time when our city is impacted by COVID and we're all struggling. I 100% agree with that. And so that's as to what I will do to help our downtown. That's something that I'm already doing. If I do make it on council, something that's extremely important is to note that our business community is the backbone of the city. It's through that sales tax dollar, those sales tax dollars that are generated by our local businesses, that we have the funds to repair potholes and pay our public works people, right? So in prioritizing our business community, because in a trickle effect, that's going to benefit all of us Lemon Grovers. If I make it onto council, I'm going to prioritize a meeting with our business community. I noticed that people want to say, oh, what can we do to bring in businesses? Something that we definitely need to do as a city is we need to focus on what we're doing now to help our current businesses, correct?
And Liana, Liana, this is John Sepulveda, also a fellow lifelong Lemon Grover. And I'm going to ask, as a lifelong Lemon Grover,
yes, hello.
that you stop the answer just for now, because we're going over time, and I appreciate the fact that you're getting clarification. You must have had Miss Campbell for English at Lemon Grove Middle. I know I did. She made us check things like that. I want to remind everyone who is on the call, we have to keep the time, and we need to make sure that we're ready. So let's please keep it moving as we continue. I'm sorry, Ms. Lebaron, you are at time. We'll go back to Miriam right now.
Okay. And George, let's hear from you on the issue of downtown revitalization and helping businesses.
Wonderful. I'm glad to jump into that one. Yeah, the downtown does need more cleaning. This has come up before, and I strongly support anything we can do to make our place more beautiful. I've heard people say that trees would be very helpful as well. I'm really proud to have the support of Ginger Hitsky, the developer of Citronica, who has been instrumental in improving our downtown, and eager to work with business leaders like her who have shown an interest in revitalizing downtown, partly by bringing quality housing to downtown and also by encouraging quality businesses downtown. I also want to give a shout out to the council and the mayor for what they've done to support businesses that are struggling with short-term loans to help keep businesses going during the COVID era. The question mentioned La Mesa and El Cajon. Hey, does anybody know what they have that we don't? La Mesa charges an extra 3/4 of a cent on sales tax, and they use that to improve streets and improve public safety, and specifically to promote economic development. Okay, so let's not pass up the chance to get some tools that we can use to help our city. Thank you.
Okay, and Teresa, let's hear from you with your ideas on business revitalization and making Lemon Grove more business friendly.
Well, my opinion is Lemon Grove is not business friendly. There is too much red tape that a business has to go through so many hoops, and even in order to even open their doors, and it's unacceptable. There are, I think it was 672 items that a business can be charged on the master fee schedule if they want to open a business in Lemon Grove. That's unacceptable. Again, I am the co-founder of the Lemon Grove Improvement Council and the Lemon Grove Business Improvement Council. We have developed the Lemon Grove Business Improvement Council to help the businesses. Also, the Lemon Grove Improvement Council does cleanups, and we fill up 3 40 cubic foot bins at one event. And we try to do it monthly. COVID kind of put a snafu in us doing it monthly, but we are back on track. Again, volunteers. These things can all be accomplished with volunteers, and we can make it happen. We need to do better for our businesses. We need to support them more. We need to do better for our residents, and it's just not happening. But we can turn this around, and we can make it great again. Thank you.
And Councilman Arambula, your thoughts on business revitalization, improving the business climate for Lemon Grove.
Well, thank you for that. So yeah, one of the things that I've learned in my short tenure on city council is that sensationalizing issues seldom makes sense. If you're trying to raise the issue because of the importance, it's good. But right now, let's just work with facts. The facts are that we have been, every city in the entire county has been impacted, in part because of COVID. But prior to that, it was because of the structural deficit caused by the funding the pensions. So all that said, our city hasn't been impacted as much as most cities because we don't rely on tourism as much. We're not IB, we're not one of those coastal cities. And our city's more meat and potatoes. In other words, we're not fancy. We, you know, like here in this, in Lemon Grove, we don't have Mercedes dealers or anything like that. That's for other places. What we have is hardworking families, hardworking folks who really just want to make sure that the government is working for them. Saying that we're not working for them is pretty silly because again, that's just, it's not factual. We've been doing quite a bit of work. I know that at least two of the members, three, actually, you know what, all four of the members here, the candidates, attend regularly the city council meetings, and they're well aware of the issues that we're facing and the work that we've been putting in for this. Not only us as on city council, but city staff, and they've been doing a phenomenal job given their resources, their limited resources. So like I said, prior to COVID, we were heading in the right direction as a council and city staff. It's only been the confluence of COVID really made this more difficult for us. So in the end, bottom line is we do have a downtown village specific plan that we need to bring back. Community already gave us their feedback. We just need to run with it. I'll say one last thing that we did receive, and I see that I got a few seconds. We did receive we are applying for a grant that will finalize the linear park and the realignment project to the tune, if we are awarded that money, over $5 million, which will complete the design and the construction phase, going from the trolley station down to, the Citronica trolley station all the way down to Massachusetts and connecting us to San Diego. So great things are about to happen. Just hang in. Thank you.
Very good. I've got a question I think we can do in a minute to try to make up some time since we went over on a couple of things. Briefly, tell us your thoughts on how to meet Lemon Grove's housing needs, whether you support height limits. There's been talk of maybe buildings of up to 5 stories. And also, if you have ideas for helping homeless residents of Lemon Grove. So housing and homelessness, including height limits. And let's see, George, you're first.
A minute?
Well, we're going to try.
I can speak to housing. Lemon Grove's done tremendous things during the time I was on the council. The population grew by almost 2,000 people. And I think we need more of the market rate, high quality housing, though we do also need to continue to build what they call the affordable housing. And here that those terms are relative. But the main thing is we need high quality housing that looks nice and that people want to stay in so that we get more long-term residents. There's so much to your question. The homeless problem has a lot to do with the county, and I'm a big believer in collaboration. We need to work with the county. We need the Board of Supervisors and Sandag. They're very focused on the homeless. We can work with them on that issue. We can't really tackle it on our own. And I'm not sure what the rest of the question is, but I'm sure
height limits. Height limits.
The height limit. You
yeah,
know,
there's some talk of 5-story buildings downtown. So
yeah, I think that we need to have a there needs to be a discussion. I don't want to say that I'm against it or for it until I've heard the arguments and heard what citizens would think about it. In general, I think we got limited space. We're only 7 minutes from downtown San Diego. We're at the cross section of 2 freeways and a trolley line. We should actually consider building up because we can't build out.
okay, thank you. Teresa, your thoughts on housing and homelessness?
Well, with regards to housing, I am in favor of, 5 stories if it's done properly. I think it needs, to be vetted by the Planning Commission and then brought forth to the City Council, and then a final decision can be made. Knowledge is empowerment. So the more knowledge we have, the better decisions that we can make. Housing needs to be affordable, and it needs to be done mindfully. Housing growth is important for the survival. It has, growth has to occur. With regards to homelessness, yes, collaborations with the county, absolutely, because I don't think we've tapped into everything that we can. Also, the Lemon Grove Improvement Council and St. John of the Cross Church, we are developing, it used to be called Dignity Showers, and we are going to be making some showers down at St. John of the Cross so that we can help the homeless, and they can go there, get food, get clothing, and be able to help them. We need to do
15
more.
seconds.
And again, with volunteers and collaborations, we can do more. We have to think out of the box. We have to be visionaries to be able to make this happen. And we can. It's going to take hard work, but you know what? I'm ready to roll up my sleeves, and I know a lot of volunteers that are ready to roll up their sleeves and make it happen. We can't wait any longer.
Super.
Thank you.
Councilman Arambula, your thoughts on housing and homelessness in Lemon Grove?
So as we all know about the RENA numbers that we are pushing back collectively and unanimously as a city council, our numbers were more than tripled this 10-year cycle. So like George mentioned a few minutes ago, we've already built out. There's only a handful of properties, some owned by the city, but mostly private properties throughout the city to build out. But quite frankly, everything has to be built up. And like Ms. Rosiak mentioned earlier, as long as it's smart growth and it's growth that coincides with the community. Remember that we did do the Downtown Village specific plan hearings or community events where we elicited hundreds of comments and input from the community that said that some were for it, some were against it, but all that data has already been captured. And like I said, the community's efforts and voice has already been said or shouted, quite frankly. We just need to go back and revisit that. As far as homelessness, recently, well, at our last homeless count, we had approximately, I believe it was 11 people that we identified. For the last 4 or 5 months, our sheriffs have been doing some outreach and identified approximately 90 individuals who are considered transitional contacts, homeless folks.
15 seconds, please.
Yep, 22 of those 90 people have been provided services or have accepted services, and now 6 of those are off the streets. So again, it's not, homelessness isn't a local issue, it's a regional issue. In other words, it doesn't just affect Lemon Grove, it affects all cities. But in this case, what we need to focus in is partnering with our neighbors in the county. Thank you.
Super. And Liana on housing and homelessness. Liana.
Yes, okay. So I've written up some words. So in my connecting and listening to the people of Lemon Grove, what is clear is that we all want properly planned development. As a planning commissioner, I encourage development that is going to transform and rebrand our small city and areas like our downtown village into something appealing and attractive, which is something that all Lemon Grovers want, and basically a place where we feel confident, where people feel confident investing in. As a planning commissioner, I always ask developers for what Lemon Grovers most want. And that's to make sure that developers that are coming in aren't taking advantage of our city to a point to where Lemon Grovers get nothing out of it, right? And as a planning commissioner, and certainly as a city council member, my entire job is to be responsible to the community, to the people of Lemon Grove, and to be an advocate for what they want. So as a planning commissioner, that said, I always ask developers for sidewalks, wider sidewalks, for green spaces, trees, and for bike lanes, because those are things that the people of Lemon Grove have told me are extremely important. And I know that because as a planning commissioner, I do my due diligence and I take that job very, very seriously. And I'm always very connected to community and asking them what it is that they want me to advocate for. And if on council, that is something that I am certainly going to do.
Super.
Well, continue to do.
Thank you, Liana. Quickly, the next question on racial justice and policing. Lemon Grove spends over 75% of its budget on sheriff and fire protection and salaries. And yet, as Teresa mentioned, there's still crime problems, especially with human trafficking. While some people want more done to stop crime, others, including many of the racial justice protesters across the country and across our region, have called for shifting some police funding to address other priorities, such as homelessness or mental illness. What are your views on how best, with the limited resources, to protect public safety, but also address racial justice concerns in Lemon Grove? And let's see, I believe this is Teresa, you're first on this one.
Thank you. Black Lives Matter. I have learned how much my privilege can help others fighting this racial war. And because of that, I did not seek the sheriff's in 2018. I pledged to support the family, friends, community members, and I acknowledge that we all need to do more, myself included. And with regards to the police, I'm running at a loss, I apologize.
Okay.
We need to take the police out of handling mental health and homeless issues. This is not something that should be part of their job. We have a PERT person, but only, the PERT person is temporarily, she's not full-time. So again, we need collaborations to get a PERT person full-time to work with the people with mental health issues and homelessness. The more we do that, then we can free up the sheriffs to do what they need to do. We also need to revitalize even more our volunteer sheriff's department and have them pick up some of the, I hate to say it, some of the slack where the sheriffs can't get to. And by doing that, we need to have them re-look at the qualifications for the volunteer patrol. Because then we can allow a younger person to be able to help, because it's really, really needed in our area. So again, that would free up the sheriffs to do the important matters at hand. Thank you.
Miriam, can I have a follow-up question, if that's okay, just very briefly? Ms. Rosiak, you said earlier that you didn't want to raise taxes and that you didn't support any kind of business interest, but yet you're calling for all these social workers to be downtown and interface with these folks. How's that going to get paid for?
Again, different collaborations and grants.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I just wanted to be clear for our
No
voters.
problem. Thank you so much.
That was a good question, John. Thank you. Councilman Arambula, your views on policing and racial justice.
Right, so providing vital services, including first responder services, are, as most of the folks here should know, it's our priority as elected officials in the municipal level, at all levels, quite frankly. So this is no exception. Is it important to have a law enforcement agency that's going to be sensitive to the needs of the community? Absolutely. And where we find that we don't get that, we need to push on our, like in our case, our Lieutenant Rand, to ensure that we're getting what we need, what we contracted for. For example, if we need, like one of the suggestions that we've been making is that officers reflect our demographics and are culturally trained and sensitive, and ideally also bilingual or trilingual where possible, so that the community can kind of relate with them a bit better. Do I feel that there's a need to bridge a gap that's been created either intentionally or unintentionally? Yes, absolutely. But we can't start with just simply pointing fingers. We need to sit down and create dialogue and an environment and a situation where we can feel comfortable discussing things with transparency and forthrightness. Until that happens, we really won't make any progress. It'll be us and them versus them. It's not us versus them, it's us.
15 seconds. Thank you.
Okay. Liana, let's hear from you on policing and racial justice issues in Lemon Grove.
Sorry for not being unmuted. So I'm in this really peculiar situation. As you can all see, I'm a tiny brown woman. I am of Mexican descent. And I also come from a family that has many law enforcement people in it. That said, as to addressing both racial equality and public safety, I certainly stand against racial prejudice. I stand against racism. And I'm going to bring up a very local, a real life example of some of my thoughts on this and allocations of funds for our law enforcement, etc. Not too long ago, I live very close to a transitional home. Not too long ago, somebody was having a mental crisis. They came out and they were screaming and yelling, and me and a couple of my neighbors, one who's a nurse, one who's a hospital social worker, we all ran to that individual and we helped that person because they were saying that they were in a time of crisis, that they didn't want us to call the police because they didn't want to go to jail. They just wanted to talk to somebody. And what my neighbors did, the nurse, the social worker, and myself, we were that team there to support that individual. Ultimately, the sheriff deputies did show up, but what that individual needed wasn't something necessarily that our sheriff deputy could have provided, which was support, mental support.
15 seconds, please.
However, at the same time, that sheriff deputy is absolutely needed to respond to many of the things that happen here in Lemon Grove. For example, when people are in their time of need, or when people feel fearful, they 100% absolutely want to know that when they pick up the phone and call 911, that our sheriff deputies are going to respond quickly.
Ms. Lebaron, just again to throw the same question that I gave to Ms. Rosiak earlier, you're again suggesting that social workers need to interface with the unhoused population, the transitional housing population. San Diego State has done research showing that this is incredibly important for Lemon Grove, your alma mater, and yet you said earlier that you would not support a tax increase to pay for these services unless everybody else wanted it. So if everyone else doesn't want it, do those services then not get funded?
No, absolutely not. No, as in, yes, they can get funded, because again, I'm going to revert. Actually, I didn't get to mention this earlier, because part of my strategy to helping our local economy is that we're going to focus on our business community, strengthening our current local business community. And if in doing so, I don't believe that Lemon Grove is 100% absolutely doomed to where we still can't partner with mental health workers, perhaps more PERT, and have our deputies partner up with those organizations.
Thank you so much. Miriam?
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, let's see. And George, I don't think we heard from you yet on this question of policing and
No, you
racial
haven't.
justice.
Yeah, I want to first of all applaud our mayor for calling a gathering of all the mayors in San Diego County to meet with leaders in the Sheriff's Department to talk about how communication can be improved, and how service can be improved, and the kind of progress that we hope to see. I've met with the Sheriff's Department. They are the Sheriff's deputies are supporting me, and I talk to them straight. I applaud their professionalism when I see it, but I also I'm not hesitant to point to areas where we need to see improvements. I think the reason why the deputies are willing to support candidates is because the candidates they support are people that support the funding that we need for law enforcement. And you know, there's just no way to get around it. It's the biggest part of our budget. That being said, I also did tell the deputies that I want to take away some of their job. And what I mean by that is what some of the other candidates have alluded to. If we had other people doing things valuable in the community, we wouldn't need the police as much. So I definitely wanted to have a stronger mental health, stronger prevention activities bringing county social workers to Lemon Grove. A lot of this does happen, but it could happen better. A lot of good ideas just need to be
10
implemented
seconds.
better and more consistently. I think I'm out of time.
Thank you very much, George. Councilman Arambula, you mentioned in your comments that you're an HR professional and your job is in part to prevent lawsuits, and yet there is a lawsuit that's been filed against the city and against you by Chris Williams, a marijuana dispensary applicant. He claims that you assaulted him. He did suffer injuries at your home after a discussion about his cannabis dispensary applications and some socializing. The mayor was there for a portion of the evening too, although she left before the physical altercation. Neither of you informed the city council or the staff of this, and yet voted on the 2 applications for his dispensaries just 3 or 4 days later. So my question for you is, what have you learned from this experience, and how do you propose to restore residents' trust in their elected officials? A lot of people are very troubled at hearing about this.
Right, and it makes sense, and I appreciate you asking that. Now, I won't go into any of the details regarding the factual allegations or the assertions that are being made by any of the parties for obvious reasons. I won't engage it, but that
It'll be up
said,
to a court, a judge, to determine
which
what
is
happened.
which of you stated it would be, well, it's scheduled right now in December, a trial, and then it'll all come out then, and we'll hopefully put this to rest pretty soon. That said, as far as regaining the trust of the individuals in the community, all I can do is just work hard and have their best interests at heart. Again, this isn't a popularity contest. I'm still going to make difficult decisions. I am going to research and take the time, hours and oftentimes days, to go through the materials that's provided to us by hard work from staff and really make informed decisions that are going to protect the city. So that said, that's how I can best do my job as a council member, is to ensure that I'm researching, that I'm always protecting the city's assets, and that we're good stewards with our city's monies.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Do any of the others want to weigh in on this question of how to restore the trust, or what lessons might be learned from this incident?
I see Ms. LeBaron. We'll start with you, and then we'll go to Ms. Rosiak, and then Mr. Gastil.
Okay. Liana.
Okay.
1 minute
So-
response, please.
Okay, I'm going to be quick. I'm going to read a couple things, not stating them as facts, not being prejudicial. I am merely reading what has been alleged and what the people of Lemon Grove want said and known. Since taking office in 2016, there have been at least 3 public accusations that challenge the incumbent councilman's ability to represent the city of Lemon Grove responsibly and ethically. According to an interview given to ABC 10 by an attorney for his former boss, attorney Dorina Hirsch, Ms. Hirsch has stated in court documents that she is, quote, extremely frightened, disturbed, and intimidated by his level of intensity, end quote. She concluded by saying she remains, quote, afraid and fearful of Arambula. In a 117-page court deposition regarding the alleged physical assault of the incumbent on a local businessman, Taisha Brown, a woman testifying in the case, on page 14 of her deposition says, quote, quote, so I want to put this on the record that I've already been approached by Mr. Arambula, and me speaking about what I know, I've been approached in a negative way that concerns me about David. And once he sees the tape and me being honest, how he may get really upset, I'm concerned about that. Further, when questioned by an attorney for the case as to why she would avoid going to an event if she knew that he was going to be there, on page 22, she replies, quote, because of the concerns I have and speaking to you about this and the previous allegations that were put out about him from a female that I happen to believe. I don't support violence or intimidation against anyone, and I most certainly stand against violence against women. Our city is a vulnerable situation. We need passion.
Oh. We are way over on the time, Liana.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ms. LeBaron, this is a very sensitive issue, and I appreciate the report from 10 News, but we watch 10 News in real time. The question is very, very clear. It's clear you support women, and we all agree that should be happen. If those types of abuses, they should be reported, and I'm not accusing the council member of that right now. I don't know any of those facts. Yeah. But what I do know, and that is important to answer the question to, is what are you going to do to restore trust? Every single candidate who is on here has said that the biggest thing, with the exception of Ms. Rosiak, has said that the biggest reason that the sales tax did not pass was because of trust. People in Lemon Grove do not trust. Mr. Gastil, you brought up Mary Sessom. Mary Sessom is not a trusted leader within Lemon Grove after the state that she left the city in. Again, that's not me just saying
A matter
this.
of opinion.
But the reason I bring this up is because at the end of the day, and this has happened for years, and I'm saying this as somebody who grew up in Lemon Grove, we have not been able to trust our city officials to actually do what they say they're going to do. So Ms. Lebaron, the question again to you, what are you going to do to restore trust and to be held accountable so that we know in 2 to 4 years there will be real change should you be elected?
To answer that question, Jonathan, you know how we do that? We do that by leading a responsible life. And we show that by leading by example. We also do that by living a life that's free of scandal. We also do that by being transparent. We do that by living responsible lives as public officials that are going to honor our city and that are going to help us to improve our city versus us backtracking and not being able to get ahead.
Thank you. We're going to go to George and then Teresa on that. And also Councilman Arambula, because Ms. Lebaron made some very serious, statements. I am going to give you a very brief chance to respond to that at the end here, in spirit of fairness. George, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to this. When I was thinking of possibly running to get back on the council, I had to do some serious thinking about what kind of council I'd be coming back on and what I could hope to accomplish. And I want you to know that I talked to the mayor. I talked to Councilmember Jennifer Mendoza. I talked to Councilmember Yadira Altamirano, who's leaving the council, but still opinion's valuable. I talked to Councilmember Jerry Jones, a dear friend of mine that we've worked together. They all said two things that really struck me. One was that they were all really eager to get me back into city government. Okay, I do respond to flattery. I will admit it. The other thing that they all told me was that regardless of who wins this election, we have to work together. I am not going to criticize anybody on this call for the simple reason that I might be sitting next to them in city government. We have to work together. The council has to pull together. And I asked Councilmember Mendoza, who's a close friend of mine, is it worthwhile to get back on this council? And she assured me, yes, it is. I asked Councilmember Vasquez, who has been a friend and then was an adversary and is now a friend again. And she said, yes, we can accomplish great things together. And they also said that if Arambula is reelected, if that's the will of the voters, we can accomplish great things with Arambula. So whoever it is that I'm working with, I will get along with that person. I'm a middle child. I can get along with anybody.
Okay, thank you very much, George. Teresa.
Well, I'm trying to run a very clean campaign, and so I did not really want to answer this question this evening.
You don't have to.
No. Transparency is vital, and making good decisions. You have to think prior to making. That is what I am going to do. If I am in any type of a situation that may cause, a problem. I'm sure that Mr. Arambula, since the meeting was at his place, has come to the conclusion that it was a bad decision. We have to wait and see what is going to come out in court. But the truth must come out so that our residents can decide for themselves in order for the public trust in our leadership to be restored. That it's the truth has to come out. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Arambula, I'm going to let you have the last word quickly on this, if there's anything you want to say.
Yeah,
All that.
absolutely. So real quick, Miriam, thank you for that opportunity. So I agree with the majority of what was stated here. There's some work that I need to do individually, but as a council, I think there's a lot of work that we can do to earn the trust. This is just what that incident was. It's really unrelated. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to go into that discussion, but what I am going to go into specifically Ms. LeBaron's comments. Keep in mind, who has a copy of these depositions?
Okay.
Nope, let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She knows specific page numbers. She knows specific quotes, and she prepared a statement for it. This isn't public. This isn't available to the general public. Public documents filed with the court are. Motion work that cites the depositions are. This has never been cited out there because it's all fabricated. And those are issues that are going to get addressed in court. But that said, going back to this issue with Ms. LeBaron, allegations are simply that. And if you are elected, you'll learn that you're going to be in the middle of scandal the minute that you make your first decision. You're not going to make everyone happy. And this is not a popularity contest. It's leadership. And leadership is difficult, and it comes with controversy. So you always have to have a very basic ground as far as like your value system. My value system is do the best with what the information is that I have. And that's, again, going back to these allegations, they're just allegations. Keep in mind that Ms. Hirsch herself, I can talk about that, admitted in that same deposition. Since you have that deposition, read it, the entire thing, and see where Ms. Hirsch says, I just did this to mess with him. So when you do find that, please, please just come back and share it with folks. Admit it, because that's what leaders do. They admit their fault and they move on, they learn from it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We're going to move on to some other important but lighter topics now, and I'm going to kick this over to John to ask the next couple of questions.
Yeah, I want to know, I'm going to ask specific questions to each candidate, and I'll let you know when it's over, because I know each one of you has your different area of expertise. Ms. Rosiak, I want to make sure that you have a chance to talk about downtown businesses. I remember growing up as a kid, we'd go get our Little League stuff at Barry's. Mom would drop something off in the post office, and then we would go over to the comic book store. There is a comic book store in Lemon Grove. It's struggling, but we are seeing incredible concentrated blight. How are you going to address that particular problem? And do you support Lemon Grove's use of eminent domain if that's necessary? Your minute begins now.
Well, eminent domain is a hot topic. So
which is why I asked you, yes. So if you could tell us how you feel about it, that'd be great.
It's an extremely hot topic, and I would have to see more particulars with regards to that before I could make a decision. With regards to blight, again, I know I've said it tonight over and over, blight can be taken care of with volunteers and collaborations. We are doing it with the Lemon Grove Improvement Council. We just need more volunteers to help us. And I know that we can do 3 times the amount of what we are doing right now. With regards to the businesses, I post daily on the neighborhood app. All the businesses, you know, I do like 3 to 5 businesses a day that are open, so that people know that they need to go and spend their hard-earned dollars in the businesses in Lemon Grove. 68 cents of every dollar that you and I spend, we spend out of Lemon Grove because we don't have what you want to buy. So we need to beg businesses to come to Lemon Grove so we can spend that 68 cents here in Lemon Grove and not outside of Lemon Grove.
I appreciate that so much. So I just want to recap for all the folks who are listening. You said you would address it by public-private collaboration, such as you were doing, ensuring that there's as much beautification that takes place, and by using social media. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that right.
Absolutely. Social media is huge. Great.
So we'll go down to the council member, Arambula. Do you think that's enough? Do you think that's good? And if so, what are you doing to add to this mix?
Well, so can we rephrase the question though in a way where the reason why I'm saying is I agree completely with Ms. Rosiak, and I do believe that eminent domain is certainly a legal extreme measure. We don't want to go down that path. We don't want to be known as a city that does engage in that. We just need to be a bit more.
If I may just then jump in and give you a real life example, across from the Home Depot, right off of New Jersey Avenue, there's a blighted large parcel of property where the owner has completely disregarded their responsibilities to keep it up to date. It is hurting all kinds of business down there because of the foot traffic, and not only that, it's inviting people who are not getting the city services they need coming off the trolley station to go camp there. So would you be in favor in that particular case, knowing those particulars, of eminent domain in that instance?
Well, if we're talking about the same property, John, since we're dealing with facts here, if it's a property to the right as you're walking out of Home Depot, the right hand side on Jersey, so we already own that property. That property, we've got a lien that resulted out of illegal dispensaries in that property, multiple illegal dispensaries. So we own that property, and we're in the process right now of getting it cleared up, cleaned up, and then possibly speaking to developers to see if we can do a private partner or a public-private partnership with them, where the city can gain revenues from either the rentals of the units that would be built there, where you have mixed usage, maybe commercial on the bottom, housing on top. So we're working on this already. It's not something that we really have to kind of think about doing.
So in that instance, you supported whether it was by means of using tax liens or, which is a form of eminent domain when the city's doing it, let's be honest.
We're just trying to collect on our judgment.
I hear you. I hear you. Mr. Gastil, if you could answer that question about eminent domain and using it as one of the toolkits.
Yeah, eminent domain could be appropriate in some circumstances. It's a last resort. And I don't think that it's really the key to solving the problems of Lemon Grove. It's something that might possibly be if other tools aren't working in specific areas. The blight really has more than anything to do with businesses that fail. And so probably the most intelligent approach would involve trying to attract businesses that are likely to succeed and support businesses so that they do in fact succeed. I think that there are a lot of things that we've talked about that could be effective. As far as volunteers are wonderful, but I haven't heard why city government would be the biggest factor in bringing volunteers. The most amazing thing we've seen done by volunteers in recent times, two amazing things. One is the tax campaign that was an amazing amount of volunteers, and the other is the community garden, which is continuing and incredibly beautiful. Those are things that involve volunteers. And in the case of the garden, the city government played a relatively minor supportive role, okay, encouraging the project. But I think city government could encourage volunteers, and maybe city government could do a better job. But I don't understand why somebody could be running for office so that they can get more volunteers. That's the kind of work that volunteers are good at attracting each other. Government really just needs to not be in their way and maybe encourage them more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Last to Ms. Lebaron. Ms. Lebaron, if you wouldn't mind, the Lemon Grove Rec Center played a huge role in my life. I don't know if you ever attended the Lemon Grove Rec Center after school. I did. It kept me out of jail. It instilled in me great values. It has been closed for a long, long time, and many candidates, the past several cycles, have promised to open it and staff it with
John,
city.
I'm sorry, really quickly.
Yes.
John, I'm sorry. Are you asking me a different question?
Yeah,
I don't think I answered
weigh in
the
on the
question
eminent
about
domain
eminent
that the other
domain.
three did. Did you have something to say on the eminent domain, Liana? You're right. We want to stay, John, with questions.
Sorry,
I think
John,
we can all weigh in on here. But
yeah, that's
sorry,
fine.
I didn't mean to cut you off, John.
No, that's okay. I was asking.
I'll get back to that though. I have comments on what you said. So as to eminent domain, anytime government is going to take private property, we always need to tread very lightly. That's what I'll say as to eminent domain.
Okay, great.
Yep.
On to the rec
I'll leave it
question.
at that as a short response.
Great. And on the rec center,
Yeah.
do you support opening it, and do you support staffing it with city employees? And if so, how would you pay for it? And I'll ask that question back down the line. We'll go to George, the council member, and Teresa after that.
So I'm first, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The rec center, yes. So I'm a born and raised Lemon Grover, and I know that you went to San Miguel, Lemon Grove Middle School, and then to Helix. So I went to Golden Avenue, Lemon Grove Middle School, and then I went to Helix. And of course, I ended up going to San Diego State. I too went to the rec center, and just like you, the rec center did give me a space to positively channel my energy, correct? Also the performing arts were a huge factor into me channeling all my energy into something positive. So the rec center is near and dear to me, as I see it is to you. I would definitely be in full support of the rec center. I know that we had talked about police earlier, and what I will say is some of the issues that we're facing now with crime and people reverting to crime as a means to get ahead, as a means to make a living. At the base of that, there's a lot of issues at the root of that. And having things like the rec center are definitely something positive, to where children aren't doing nefarious, dubious things, and instead they're channeling their energy into something positive, like playing flag football behind the rec center, or playing Connect 4 at the rec center, or drawing at the rec center.
Sure. We're going to try and keep the answers very short, but one of the things that Ms. Lebaron touched on as we move now to George, maybe you, I'm trying to promote more conversation as opposed to, I don't know, where everybody's kind of the same process, building off ideas. And with that, George, one of the things that has been suggested is that the $350,000 per year that it took to run the rec center be taken out of the sheriff's budget. George Gastil, do you agree with an idea like that? Since we all agree, I'm sure with Liana that with Ms. Lebaron that the rec center is important. Would you approve of taking some money from the sheriff and putting it into the rec center?
Yeah, that's an intriguing idea. I certainly think it's worth considering how we can get the most value for a particular dollar, and looking at whether, putting the dollar here or putting the dollar there. The sheriff's department has been cut, and so it might be a question of, if we got $350,000 that we don't have right now, would that go toward the rec center or the sheriff's department? And that's certainly something that I'd be eager to look at. I was on the losing side of a 3-2 vote back in 2010. I think it was 2010 when the rec department was discontinued. Though I have to say that recreation did continue without a recreation department. So I would give some credit to city people who were able to keep recreation programs going in other ways without a recreation department. But I definitely want to bring back the recreation department. This was something that was specified in the tax measure that we brought to voters, that the money would be for public safety, recreation, and homeless services. And I think that there is actually a lot of public support. A lot of people, when they saw that, said, "Oh yes, we do need to be investing in recreation."
Sure. Well, thank you so much. One of the arguments as we go to council member Arambula, one of the arguments we heard at that time, that this vote before it was being taken, was that this would hurt downtown businesses because the rec center was like an anchor in those areas. Do you see those issues as connected? And how would you feel about taking money from the sheriff's budget or public safety and using it to invest in the rec center? You have about a minute 30 is how long everybody's been taking.
Okay, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. Do I believe or support our rec center? Absolutely. I was born and raised in LA, and the rec center, like yourself and possibly Ms. LeBaron, it really kept me off the street. It gave me a home where I can either do homework or play sports or just learn how to be part of a team. So I think the rec center is extremely important. And that whole adage, we either invest now in our kids or we're going to pay for it later, that holds true today. The question really is, do we have the money to fund a recreational department? Now, do we have recreational services? Yeah, we can do better, I think, as we work through this. I'll give you an example. We're right now partnering with U.S. Soccer and possibly looking at a mini pitch soccer field. And so again, just partnering with the U.S. Soccer Foundation, possibly putting something at Kunkel Park, or perhaps that'll possibly be maintained by St. John's folks, or maybe a school site through a joint use agreement. So there are things that we have in place, but again, the priority right now is ensuring that we're providing the services to the residents, and we start with public safety, and then we work our way from there. So our top priority is public safety. Right next to it is rec center and our youth, because listen, I got 5 kids. 3 of them are under the age of 15 or 15 and under. So the rec center is extremely vital to us, and I wanted to come back, but now it's a matter of, can we afford for it to come back, and in what capacity? Like, what does that actually look like? So we got to continue those discussions.
I appreciate that. And then Ms. Rosiak, final word on this.
Well, we have to invest in our youth. They are our future. They could be our future, doctors, attorneys, judges, anything. So we have to invest. We have neglected the youth of Lemon Grove for far too long. And again, it has to stop, and it has to stop now. And there are public sectors that will help us fund the rec center. We just have to reach out to them, show them a plan, and have them buy in. It's as easy as that, and it can be done. Grant funding, again, we are collaborating currently with the county. We do the San Diego Nights. That's great, but we need more support. And it is a doable thing. You just have to put in the work to make it happen. Thank you.
Excellent. We're going to go to our lightning round now. I think these are very short answers mostly. First question, I think you can probably do this in maybe just a yes or no or 30 seconds. Should Lemon Grove have council districts instead of at-large elections to help make council districts more representative and council members accountable to voters in individual neighborhoods? Councilman Arambula, you're first.
No, and I do support term limits.
Okay, thank you. Liana. Council districts, if you want to weigh in on term limits, you can do that.
One of the great things about,
go ahead.
yes, I'd say one of the great things about the city of Lemon Grove is that it's only 3 miles across. So I'm not exactly sure that having little districts would be necessary, but yes. And as to term limits, I absolutely support term limits.
Thank you. George, Councilman Gastil, former Councilman Gastil. We'll get it right.
Yeah, I think that Lemon Grove is small enough so that we probably don't need council districts. I also think it's doubtful that you'd have 5 of the best, brightest, most available people who would happen to live in 5 different parts of the city. So I think council districts is probably not necessary. Was there a question about term limits?
No, but David threw it in, so there, I believe there is.
The voters impose
Sorry about
term
that.
limits. The voters impose term limits. They've shown that they're very capable of imposing term limits. We don't need anyone else to impose them.
Very good. And Teresa.
We're only 3.9 square miles, so I don't think it's necessary. And yes, I do support term limits.
Thank you. The next question is on cannabis. Do you support or oppose legalizing recreational cannabis sales and or taxing it to balance the budget? Liana, you're first on this one.
So recreational cannabis is something, well, actually for starters, medical marijuana was voted for in 2016
Right.
and it passed by a very small margin here in Lemon Grove. As to recreational cannabis, City Council, our current City Council has already agendized that and they've already put it on the ballot for this November. Like I've already said before, I'm just an oracle. I'm a voice for the community. I'm a voice for Lemon Grove. So I'll wait to see what the people of Lemon Grove think regarding recreational cannabis.
Thank you very much. And let's see, I've lost track. Did I miss
You're
anybody on that? Everybody weighed in? Oh, no, I'm sorry, on cannabis. George, I think you're next on that.
On cannabis, yeah, I'd like to wait to see what the voters say on Prop J. I think on propositions, it's usually, unless there's some specific reason a council member should be out front, it's best to wait and see what they want to do. I did support recreational at statewide level. I think right now we have a commitment to medical marijuana, and unless the voters say otherwise, medical marijuana is what we have here in Lemon Grove.
And
And
Teresa,
as for balancing the
Oh, I'm sorry.
budget, I think it'd be a terrible idea to change a basic policy with the idea that it would balance the budget. The revenue that we get is not the biggest consideration here, okay? If we get revenue from cannabis, that's great. But I would encourage voters to focus on the policy issue. Do they or do they not want recreational cannabis? And focus on that first. There are many ways we can get revenue.
thank you. Teresa, your views on the marijuana.
Medical marijuana obviously passed in Lemon Grove, so I do support it. Recreational, yes, I do support it because I know people that really need it, and I do not want to see them going to a dispensary that is not approved. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councilman Arambula, your thoughts on that?
So I do support recreational marijuana on a personal level. Now, I wouldn't make a decision based on just my personal opinions or outlook on recreational marijuana. I would need, just like George mentioned, the feedback and input from the community to let us know where they stand on recreational cannabis. And as far as using revenues there exclusively to balance the budget, obviously that's not going to happen. To contribute to the budget, again, it's at this point, it's all circumstantial in the sense that we don't know what it's going to, one, if the residents want it, and secondly, what it's actually going to generate. We can speculate all we want, but quite frankly, until we actually get it, take the proper steps and present it to the community and make or allow them to vote and get their feedback, then we can start talking about more of the nuances related to this. But as far as my personal opinion on it, yes, I do support recreational cannabis.
Okay, super, thank you. A couple of questions people had on parks, other than wanting more of them and more green space. The specific questions, someone asked about, what are your views about the surveillance cameras being put up in Lemon Grove parks? And someone else asked, will you stop the city's landscaping company from using Roundup, which is a carcinogen apparently being applied in Lemon Grove parks where kids and pets play? So cameras and surveillance cameras and Roundup in the parks. George, you're first, I believe.
Yeah, I'm okay with surveillance cameras in parks. They are public places. And I think as long as people understand that the cameras are there, there has to be some real reason. I mean, I think that the law enforcement or whoever wants the cameras would have to present, a compelling case for the cameras. But they are public places. People should expect to be seen in public parks. And as for what was the other one?
The use of Roundup.
Carcinogen. Roundup, yeah, is dangerous, and we should find another way to protect our parks and keep our parks beautiful.
Okay, thanks. Teresa, cameras and Roundup.
With regards to the cameras, I think it is another tool that law enforcement can use, and I think it's a tool that's going to work out very, very well. And again, as George said, they are public places. So again, it's a tool that's needed for our police, our sheriffs. And with regards to Roundup, if I'm not mistaken, we contract with Aztec Landscaping, and they are in the process of possibly switching products if they haven't already done so, because that was brought up to them in the past. So I don't know if they've made that, changeover, but that's something that we could look into to make sure that, it is done.
Thank you. Councilman Arambula on cameras and Roundup in the parks.
So the surveillance cameras, I'm all for it. Obviously have a concern for Big Brother, but we did vet through a majority of these issues. One, they're not recording. And I know that there may be some ancillary issues related to that, but we haven't got to that point, meaning that if you can show a picture frame, then at some point it's recorded somewhere. So we still need to get to the bottom of that portion of it. But again, it's been represented to us that it's not recording. It's no cost to Lemon Grove whatsoever. So it's a pilot program. We got chosen and we accepted as a council. And then like Ms. Rosiak mentioned, it's a great tool for our sheriffs to better respond to calls. In other words, they can see real time if what the call's about requires one officer or 10 officers. It allocates their resources a bit better. As far as Roundup, we had a discussion as an agendized item months back regarding their use of Roundup. And I think unequivocally we said that we did not want it to be used. And we asked that either staff approach them or suggest to them exactly what we wanted regarding Roundup and an alternative for it. But I know that it was a nominal amount being used, but still the concern is still there. And the idea across the council, if I recall correctly, was that we wanted an alternative, a safer alternative.
Thank you. And Liana, you get the last word on this question. Your views on the surveillance cameras and use of Roundup in public parks.
This comes down to a question of personal privacy and perceived safety. Per usual, I reached out to people from the community, and it's a split actually with those who I reached out to. What everyone has shared, and this is something that everyone had in common, was that they were saddened that the cameras were necessary in the first place. And I think this is going to go back to the issue of investing in our children, investing in strengthening our families, and I'll leave it with that.
And on Roundup, use of Roundup?
Oh, we should always be trying to use stuff that is safe for the environment.
Very good.
Not sure Roundup is what we need.
So I'd like to ask each of you for just a quick minute, if you could wave a magic wand tomorrow and the city somehow managed to raise enough revenues to eliminate its debt and finally have a surplus again, what would your number one priority be that you would want to use extra funding for? Teresa, you're first on this one.
Wow, that's a loaded question. I'm going to say our businesses. Our businesses need help, and I would think that I would, put it to the businesses, and if I could do a caveat, business and homeless.
Okay. Councilman Arambula, what would your first choice be for spending any surplus whenever Lemon Grove has one again?
Wishful thinking, I love it.
Based on what we know today,
I love it.
Okay.
So public safety, first and foremost, whether it's the sheriffs, whether it's the fire department and their aging equipment. And so public safety, first and foremost. Second, and very, very close second, would be the recreational activities. And with the idea of reopening recreational department, that would be my priorities there.
Thank you. And Liana, what would your priority be?
If I'm speaking for the residents of the city of Lemon Grove, I'd want to spend any surplus money on cleaning up our city.
Thank you. And George Gastil, how about you?
Well, I think if we think it's most important, that's probably something we would do on the road toward to where we have a surplus. And I totally agree with Liana
George,
about
the sound cut out for a moment and I didn't hear your answer. Can you repeat it, please?
Sure. I was saying that whatever we think is most important, we'd want to do before we get to the point where we have a surplus. I think that, like cleaning the city, that's actually something that's probably a step toward the recovery of Lemon Grove, okay? Not something that we would do after, after we've succeeded, you know what I mean? So but yeah, all of these ideas I hear are really ideas. Question of what order we do something in is probably something to give some thought to. I would like to drastically improve our parks. I'd like to drastically improve our recreation. And I hope that people realize during the last recession, 1/3 of employees of Lemon Grove were lost, and most of those jobs have not been restored. So I would like to see a more fully staffed city so that it can serve the citizens of Lemon Grove more effectively as well.
Very good, thank you. And with that, we're going to go, oh, I'm sorry, did everyone weigh in on that? I've lost track. I think they did. Okay. We're going to go to closing statements now. And this is your chance to make your case for why you're the best person to you're first with the closing statements.
Great. And again, thank you, Miriam. Thank you, John. Thank you, fellow candidates, as well as the community that came out to, spend a few minutes with us and listening to the candidates. I'll keep it brief. Let me close simply by stating that any individual that is elected in November will have to work closely with fellow council members in order to address the pressing issues facing the city. So nothing sustainable can be done individually. So there's no I in this. And truly that adage of there's no I in team exists here. So nothing sustainable can be done individually. It has to be done as part of a relatively tight and cohesive team. Now there's going to be disagreements and that's fine. But that doesn't rise to the level of not working as a team. We all want the best thing for Lemon Grove. I certainly do, and I'll continue doing this whether elected or not. I'll continue working with the different community-based organizations. I'm a member of several of the organizations that were mentioned this evening. I'll continue that work. So again, I've been part of this team for over 3 years and I'm looking forward to continuing the work that we're doing to help Lemon Grove excel. So I hope to provide you additional reasons to earn your vote in the next 2 months, in addition to what was said today to get me reelected to the Lemon Grove City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Liana, your turn for closing statements.
As I've already told everybody, I'm a born and raised Lemon Grover, proud military wife and mother, and I'm also currently a Lemon Grove Planning Commissioner. I've dedicated the last few years of my life to giving back to the city that made me. I do so wholeheartedly and with an extreme passion to giving back and to serving not only the city, well, the people of the city of Lemon Grove. I'm a person who's extremely, extremely, extremely connected to the community. And as a city council member, I can assure you that I'm going to remain connected to you. I'm going to work for you. I'm going to remain committed to working for you. And what I will say is that just like everybody who's watching this recording, I have the same concerns as you. And now, just as a resident, I already commit myself to working towards getting stuff done in the city. I can guarantee that as a council member, that's only going to continue. Some of our common concerns, the cleanliness of our city, our safety, the strength of our local business community, that some of our worst paved streets are repaved. Those are all concerns that I have because I, like you, am here. I'm very connected to the community. I listen to the community. So this November, be sure to vote Liana Lebaron for Lemon Grove City Council. I will remain committed to working for you.
Thank you very much, Liana. George, let's have your closing statements, please.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and thanks again to all the people putting in the time to learn about the candidates. I think that we basically agree on what is wonderful about Lemon Grove and what we need to improve. I think that I have a lot to offer because of my experience on the council, as well as my experience on the school board. As I was hearing the suggestions that people are bringing up, in my experience on the school board might be just as valuable as my experience on the council. When I was on the school board, for example, we picked up a lot of the after school work the after school programs that the city had been doing. So the city and the school district can be working together on some of the problems that we're talking about. I think that voters should seriously consider, if they want to make change, and I hear that people do, consider electing experienced people who want to make change, because this city is in a dire situation. We need people experienced, and we need people who can work together as a team. The East County Inquirer gave me the highest compliment I've heard in a long time. They said, "We like Gastil's experience and level-headedness." If that would fit on a yard sign, I would put that on a yard sign. I'm so honored by that. And I'm also honored to have the support of the firefighters. And I'm honored to have the support of former Mayor Sessom, who left the city with a surplus that is saving us right now, who led the city in pension reform that is saving us right now. So I'm really proud to have the support of so many people that have worked hard for the city, so many people that believe in Lemon Grove, including Shirley Weber, the assembly member who I've worked for, including the Labor Council, and including several of the council members and former council members that I've had the honor to work for, as well as school board members like Tim Shaw and Jay Bass that have worked with me. People who know Gastil say they want Gastil back, okay? And I respond to that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, George. And Teresa, it's time for your closing statement.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Miriam, and the East County Magazine for your great reporting and for doing this evening. I'm running for Lemon Grove City Council because I am passionate about what is happening in our city. We need people in leadership who can look at our financial situation and make the hard decisions that are needed to balance our budget. Currently, the budget is balanced by raiding our rainy day fund with no plan to pay it back. I will make our financial crisis a priority. The city of Lemon Grove needs to live within its means, just like the hardworking residents do each and every day. I do not have all the answers, but if chosen, leaves, and I will take a thorough look at the budget and get to work. I will help the council create a realistic financial plan for our city. I would be honored to have your vote on Tuesday, November 3rd, and to represent you, the citizens of Lemon Grove. Thank you very much for your participation this evening.
Thank you, Teresa. And I really want to give a big thanks to all of the candidates for your commitment, not only to run for public office, but to participate in this forum in this time of COVID, when it's really hard for people to hear directly or meet the candidates face to face. Also, I want to thank the residents who sent in some great questions. I wish we could have asked every single one of them. We also want to thank the Facebook Journalism Project for supporting our virtual candidate forums and our reporting during the pandemic. We will be posting full video of this at eastcountymagazine.org. It may take a day or so to process it, but we will have it up there and on our Facebook page as well. We'll be airing an audio version, probably trimmed a bit, on KNSJ Radio. And I also want to encourage everybody to go to sdvote.com. Check to make sure that you're still registered. And if you haven't registered yet, register to vote. Due to the pandemic this year, ballots are being mailed to everybody. So register early. And you can also drop off your ballots at polling places and polling super centers across our region. So get one of these and mask up and go vote.